Morning all. Alright, so you will hear a heater in the background with videos I do today because the cold winds have returned to remind me I'm really glad we're going to California. So we have 2 games today in the NHL. I didn't figure that warranted staying up late last night and doing a preview video just for the two, especially since they're not that early matinee games. It's 2 o'clock Pacific, 5 o'clock Eastern. So Boston's in against Carolina. This could be a great game. Boston's lost a couple of close ones against Florida-based teams. Now they're in Carolina. And throughout the season, we've seen how this road trip can be tough for teams. So Boston, 38-6-5 is their record over their last 10 games. They're 7-2-1. Away from home, they're 16-5-1. For Carolina, they're 31-9-8 overall. Their last 10 games, they are 6-2-2. And at home, they're 15-5-2. November 25th, Boston wins this one in overtime 3-2. The third and final meeting will be on March the 26th, when it'll be warmer. Also at 5 Eastern, 2 o'clock Pacific, Washington in against the Toronto Maple Leafs. Washington's 26-19-6. It's part of the reason I'm wearing the Caps jersey. The other reason being on the board down here. Don't cheat and read ahead. So for the Capitals, they're 4-6 in their last 10. Away from home, they're 12-11-3. Toronto's 30-12-8 at home. Their last 10 games, they're 6-3-1. At home, they're 19-4-4. October 13th, Toronto wins 3-2. That was in Toronto. And in Washington, the Capitals won 5-2 on December 17th. So this is the rubber match, and we'll see if a road team can win this one. I have no idea who's going to win it. I just figured I should wear caps because I'm going to talk about them again later on in the video. So that being said, let me know your winners in the comment section below as always. Now, on to the news of the day. GM Bill Armstrong, in an interview with the NHL website itself, basically said he's open to anything in a trade. Now, pretty much anything means don't ask about Keller or we'll hang up on you. There's been discussions about whether or not Schmaltz might be on the block. Bugstad was talked about last night on Hockey Night in Canada, and whether or not the Oilers would be interested in Bugstad. One thing with Arizona players is right now, if you look at some of their stats, they're playing really, really well. I don't think those stats would translate to other teams. I think there are players who are playing top prominent roles with the Arizona Coyotes, are getting specialty times, or like special teams time. There we go. That's a better way of putting it. And they're not going to get that in certain locations that they might be rumored to be going to. So I do wonder if fan bases might get a little more excited about what a player could do based on their stats with Arizona than what they can do with their own team, but we'll see. But yeah, basically says he's open to anything and did a really good job of selling Chychrun. I don't know who he's trying to do the sales pitch to, because I'm already sold on Chychrun. I think Chychrun's could be a fantastic pickup for somebody. Philadelphia. So MacEwen has 5 weeks he's going to miss with a fractured jaw. And it's interesting because as soon as I read that, I thought, yep, I saw him he was in the penalty box after the fight doing this. And I was like, all right, so, and that can be nothing, but fractured jaw, yep, that makes some sense. So he'll be out for 5 weeks. Keeping in mind, you've got the All-Star break there, so it's not as much time as it otherwise would be. And the Flyers are not in a playoff race right now. Anyways, not really. They're on the outskirts of said playoff race. But MacEwen's fit in really well with the Flyers. So while on some level I miss him with the Canucks, he's fit in really well with Philly. Cole Caufield. So while Ilya Mikheyev has come out and said, I would have kept playing, and it was my choice to play, because there are people criticizing the Canucks and their way of handling things. Cole Caufield, meanwhile, after admitting he popped his shoulder back in twice after it had come out of the socket, is saying that if the team was in a playoff hunt or in a playoff position, he would have kept playing. He wouldn't have opted for surgery at all. And this, again, is what I was talking about. Hockey players will do this. They'll play through injuries. They'll play through an incredible amount of pain because it's all about that chase for the Stanley Cup, right? This is one thing that hasn't changed. While there are definitely rumblings and murmurs about how players now are greedy and they're selfish and all this, the reality is that if their team is in the hunt for a playoff spot or they're in a playoff spot, they will play through a lot of pain. And so Caufield's basically saying, yeah, he would have basically potentially wrecked his shoulder just for the idea that maybe they could play for a Stanley Cup. And that, again, is a very common way of looking at things for hockey players. And there's not much that the teams can do. They can make the recommendations. You can make a guy a healthy scratch if you want, and the irony wouldn't be lost on me doing that when the guy's not healthy and you're making him a scratch. An unhealthy scratch? Anyways, But if he says I'm good to go, then it is a healthy scratch. Anyways, so this is a story that I think is likely closed on the Caufield side, but we will be talking about other injuries and things of that nature before the season is done. One of the things that I found interesting last night in the Hockey Night in Canada coverage was, I think it was Jeff Merrick saying that Khudobin may be on the move from Dallas. Khudobin, honestly, I feel bad for him. He had that run in 2020, which I think raised the bar too high. Khudobin, not really a starting goaltender through most of his career. A decent backup option, though, and he's a guy who's gone through great ebbs and flows. Like, when his career's done, it's going to make a really interesting career video. But I don't know how you trade that contract without taking money back, and I don't think Dallas wants to take money back. He's been playing well enough in the AHL. I think that will drum up some interest, especially from teams that need extra help in net, but you have to have cap space to take on Khudobin. And then you're taking on a goaltender that may or may not help at the NHL level. At this point in time, the last time he was called up, the results were basically mixed. And so for Dallas, the option of Khudobin wasn't as good as the option of having Ottinger in there, even though Ottinger didn't need waivers to be cleared to go down to the minors. So we'll see what happens with Khudobin. I'll be interested to see. Of course, yesterday, Columbus took Lane Peterson from the Vancouver Canucks on waivers. I didn't figure that warranted a video all in and of its own. I will say this, Peterson, this is his fourth team now. It'd be nice if he found a home. He's a decent enough player. I've watched his games in all the locations. I've liked him. I understand why he's one of these guys who ends up kind of bouncing around a bit, but I'd like to see him find a home, because I think if he finds a home and if he finds a really good, I would say a good third line spot, I think Peterson can be a regular in the NHL. And we could look back years from now and go, how is he on waivers? How has he moved around so much? And it's just, I think it's a matter of finding that right fit. At times with Vancouver, he looked quite good. I'm still kind of surprised that they waived him. Of all the options they had, I'm kind of surprised they waived him. But here's where we are. So hopefully he does well in Columbus. Now, one thing I did wonder when they started naming the All-Star players was, I thought, so is Ovechkin going to go? I even made the joke where Ovechkin missed a game last week with he might be getting ready for that suspension when he doesn't go to the All-Star game. However, he's taking the kids to the All-Star game, and he's kind of excited about it. So this is really driving that point home. The All-Star game is for kids. It is really designed to be for children. So for those of us that as adults are like, we want a real game, and we want this to be serious, the NHL's not really interested in that. And I don't think the players are either. I really don't think that if, let's say you're the only guy on your team who's going to the All-Star game, it's going to be this really tough affair, and there's going to be a bunch of body checks and stuff. Meanwhile, all the rest of your friends are going to Barbados for a week. All your teammates are all going to Barbados for a week. You know? And the game doesn't really mean anything in the standings. I think you'd have a harder time enticing players to go to that. I think you'd find a lot of players saying, yeah, so if you're going to have the game in Barbados, I'll play, but otherwise, see ya. And then, of course, you'd have suspensions, which players would be like, cool, so we're going to extend our stay in Barbados because I'm suspended for the game after the break anyway, so cool, thanks. Ovechkin going to the game, great. I haven't heard anything about anybody opting out. And, it's going to continue to be an interesting one. I know they're trying to do something creative with the skills competition and all of that fun stuff. But again, it's really designed for kids. Like, I'm not going to be leaving Disney to go out and watch that, even though Disneyland's kind of geared towards kids. Although the first time I went, I found out, you know what? As an adult, I can get some enjoyment out of this too. So, all the best to Ovi at the All-Star game. The Caps, I'm going to say this, the stadium jerseys appear to be hard to find in relation to the Carolina ones. So I have the Adidas app. The Adidas app is how I got the Winter Classics, the Boston and Pittsburgh Winter Classics. And I had enough Adidas points to get 30% off, so yay for this guy. But the Caps jersey is not on there. Now, I'm not saying it won't be on there, but then I looked on the NHL shop, which is always a more expensive option, and it was $289 for the Adidas version. I think that was it was NHL.ca, like the Canadian version. I only say that because you have to make sure you're an NHL shop CA rather than .com, because you're paying American prices if it's shop.com. But yeah, it looks like this one's going to be pricey. And not only that, but it was almost sold out. So that Caps jersey almost sold out. It may be one I don't end up with. Ben's already told me basically he's not sure if he's going to be able to get that. And it may be a supply thing. It might be one of those things. Again, we've seen that with jerseys. It's one of the reasons why the first round of reverse retros sold out immediately. They were gone. There just weren't very many. So we'll see what happens. Other than the jerseys people didn't like, those were in abundance. But yeah, so for the Capitals Stadium jersey, it may be one that I don't end up having, and I'm okay with that. Even though it is a very nice jersey, I like what they did with it. It may end up being one that I don't have. And the Carolina one, I think will look good under a black light. I think that red, I think that'll pop under a black light. Other than that, it's your monochromatic stadium jersey that we've seen done by Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, and other teams have done it too. Even the Caps first time around were just had Caps on the front. That was pretty boring. And so, yeah, if you're looking for a stadium jersey and you're hemming and hawing and saying, well, I'll come back to it later, it may not be there later. Of course, there'll be the Capitals team store as well. That is one thing that I always do. If I can't find a jersey anywhere else, I look at the team store online and see about ordering it. One Adidas that I do not have is the new design for the LA Kings, where it's the more sparkly fabric on the silver. I don't have the white version of that because it's hard to find the Adidas's in white. Although that's supposed to change next year as well. Adidas has not wanted to distribute the white jerseys. I think they just don't sell. I think it's just a matter of cost. But that's supposed to change next year. So just as a heads up, if you're like, I'd like to get a white version of name team's jersey, they may be in more abundance next season. But we'll see. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. If you're browsing your way through, you just happened upon this video. And why, yes, $289 for a stadium jersey I think is a little bit high. So I wasn't going to pay that for the Capitals one. I just looked at that and went, right before a trip during tax season? No, I don't think so. Anyways, there you go. Let me know your thoughts. As always, don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through, you just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.